Well, hello everyone. I say this every time, but I'm really excited about today's guest. And the reason why I say this every time is because I only have very good guests. But I got Louise Digby on today, and she's a band registered nutritional therapist. Now she's a weight loss expert as well, and I know this topic is a little bit tricky for a lot of people. It used to be tricky for me as well, but I think it's a really interesting topic to talk about. Louise is the creator of the Nourish Method as well, and that helps women get their dream body and supercharge their energy. I love that, and overcome frustrating symptoms. And some of the symptoms are bloating, bowel problems, skin complaints, and so on and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit about key factors that can hinder weight loss, such as gut health, toxic load. This is quite an interesting one, I think, and nutrient deficiencies. And I was just saying, I never remember how old I am. I'm going to be 43 this year. I'm getting to an age, I think, and a lot of my friends are getting to an age where they start to realize, hang on, it's a little bit harder to keep my weight, or I'm starting to pile on weight, especially around the abdomen. So this is a topic that I'm really interested in talking to Lisa about. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat about all this stuff.
It's a really, really interesting topic, I think. But I was just saying to you earlier, because you've been a nutritional therapist for a while already,
Mm.
but you're quite a bit younger than me still. So how come sort of after the age of 35 it's become sort of your focus area? Is that sort of the issue you see the most with women, that they come to a certain age and maybe, I don't know, it's not enough to go running 3 times a week anymore, or it's not enough to eat a little bit less bread? They're coming to a point where, like with a lot of my friends, that we're like, hang on, what's going on around my belly?
Yeah, exactly that. Most women find that after the age of 35, 40, or sometimes it's after they've had kids, particularly the second child, it becomes a lot more difficult to lose weight, and just cutting back a bit or doing a bit more exercise doesn't seem to cut it. The things that they used to do when they're in their 20s to get the weight off no longer works anymore. And when I first started practicing, I worked with lots of different people, lots of different goals, whether it was trying to lose weight or whether it was something entirely different like depression or IBS or skin. And what I noticed was that pretty much everyone that came to me, whatever they came to me for, they also wanted to lose a little bit of weight. And the people that came to me just to lose weight, they didn't get as good of results as the people who were focusing on their health, the people who were trying to optimize their gut health or their skin. Um, and so that kind of showed me that there's more to weight loss than just how much you're eating and how much you're exercising. And then I noticed that it was particularly women over the age of 35, 40 who were actually the most disciplined and who were trying the hardest, but getting the worst results overall.
So unfair.
And yeah, and they when I say most disciplined, I guess what I mean is also that they were cutting back the most. They were eating the least and trying to burn more calories. But again, getting the worst results. And that kind of led me to focusing on that area because I really wanted to unpick that. I was really, frustrated that my clients weren't seeing the results that we would expect. So I ended up specializing that in that area, which involves digging a lot deeper and looking at hormones and inflammation and gut health and toxic load and all these things that we don't think about when we're trying to lose weight.
There's so much, isn't there, that isn't mentioned. I always have a go sort of around Christmas time, because in all the magazines, it's like, eat this, enjoy that, blah, blah. And it comes to January and it's like, here's how you lose 10 pounds in 2 days or whatever nonsense. And there's like, it's, as you said, it's all the focus on losing the weight, and then what? And also it's not sustainable anyway. But
Mm.
it's interesting what you said there, because it was only when I sort of stopped focusing on losing the weight and started thinking, gosh, I need to look after myself. I had a second baby and I had this winter cold. And I thought, for anyone who's had a baby, If you're coughing and sneezing just after you've had a baby, it's not ideal because your pelvic floor isn't especially strong. So I just thought, I have to get rid of this cold. This is insane. It was only when I started making those changes to my body then that I was like, hang on, this weight is coming off. And it wasn't a lot, but it was, let's say, 10 pounds.
Mm.
Yeah. And it was just slowly sort of shifting, but that wasn't my focus. I was focusing on nourishing myself because I just was done having these colds. So it was just like an accidental thing that happened. But I find it so frustrating that we're being sold this diet culture all the time. That must be frustrating for you as well, having learned what you have learned studying to be a nutritional therapist, right?
Yeah, we've been told that it's very black and white, and
Yeah.
that if you can just get in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. But I've seen time and time again that that just isn't true. Getting into a calorie deficit doesn't automatically mean that you're going to lose weight. There's various things that need to be in place in order for your body to be able to burn fat. We need certain nutrients for us to be able to process fat and burn it and turn it into energy. Our thyroid needs to be properly fueled so that our metabolism is running fast enough. Your gut needs to be happy and healthy so that you can eliminate your hormones and not end up with hormones recirculating around your system. Your liver needs to be running efficiently so that you're not building up a high toxic load, which can in turn lead to you actually storing more fat. So there's lots of things going on that have nothing to do with the amount of calories you're eating. And so often when I work with women, we're actually getting them to eat more and scale back the exercise in terms of the intensity of it that they're doing, to take a much more like gentle approach to their health and their weight loss. And it gets far better results because their bodies are actually getting what they need to thrive and having the opportunity to recover from exercise and utilize those nutrients and fuels that you're putting in your body.
I'm just vigorously nodding my head now. Because that was a wake up call for me, the whole thing that your body doesn't need to be in a state of massive stress all the time,
Mm.
because if you do lots of exercise, that's putting oxidative stress into your body as well, isn't it? And so you need to have the chance to actually sort of get back down from that and fuel yourself the right way so your body can deal with these things. Shall we unpick a few of those things then? Because hormonal health is like, it's a buzzword, isn't it? And balance your hormones and all of these things. And I hear it being sort of thrown out left, right, and center. But I think so many of us don't really know what is meant. I think a lot of us think, when we think hormones, we think like estrogen and
Mm.
testosterone and all those. But I'm so glad you mentioned the thyroid. Do you want to
Mm.
start there and share a little bit about why that's an important, and maybe also we can go on to insulin perhaps in a bit as well. But thyroid health, I mean, is it 20% of all women in the UK have an underactive thyroid? It's
Mm.
something insane, isn't it?
It's a massive proportion of women. And the frustrating thing about the thyroid is that many women have been to the doctors, had it checked, been told it's normal, including you.
Including me.
And it's something that there's a lot of problems with the testing. The testing is very basic. It doesn't dig into the various other hormones and underlying issues. The ranges are very narrow, so they miss a lot of people who do have imbalances. Um, and then the treatment for underactive thyroid is a one size fits all, levothyroxine. And it doesn't matter what the cause is or, what the actual imbalance is, it's levothyroxine. So there's loads of issues around that. And that's frustrating because there's so much that you can do to support your thyroid function with food and lifestyle changes. But the reason why it's so important is because your thyroid is the master controller of your metabolism. It controls the speed of pretty much everything that's happening in your body. So if your thyroid is even just slightly under functioning, that's going to slow down the rate at which you burn fat, whether you're in a calorie deficit or not. And sometimes being in the calorie deficit, if it's quite a big one and you're in it consistently, could make your thyroid function worse because your thyroid isn't getting enough fuel. So it's kind of a prime example of how not eating enough could actually be causing weight gain rather than weight loss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is interesting. I remember there was a girl I went to university with so a million years ago, and she remember saying to me, I've eaten healthily all summer. I've cycled uphill for about, I mean, it was insane. This was back in Norway where I'm from. Uphill for 30 minutes every day to get to this job. I've lost 1 pound. What on earth is going on? She found out she had an underactive thyroid. And actually, when she got medications, this would have been 20 years ago, all of a sudden, her weight went because her thyroid
Mm.
hadn't functioned properly. So she was not able to, to, to lose any weight, no matter how hard she tried.
And it's important to note that, your thyroid isn't the root cause. There's We need to go another level deeper. And this is one of the frustrating things about kind of all the hormone marketing online as well, is that it blames your hormones, and hormones have very much become a scapegoat
Yeah.
for weight gain.
Yes.
But your hormones are impacted by everything else. They're really still a symptom. It's things like your gut health and inflammation and liver function and nutrient levels that impact your hormones. And the things that impact those are your diet, your lifestyle, sleep, stress, and all of those environmental factors.
Mm.
So yes, your hormones are a factor, but they're not the root of the problem. And it's not a case of saying, oh, it's my thyroid's causing the issue. There's nothing I can do about that. There's
Yeah.
loads that we can do about it.
Because that turns us into victims again, doesn't it? Then we want to
Mm,
be able to be empowered and make good decisions for ourselves to support ourselves, right? There's so much we can do ourselves. I think that's a really key message, isn't it? We don't have to just sit back and go, oh, my thyroid's messed up, there's not much I can do. But what are
yeah.
the key nutrients then is what I guess what somebody would say. And or should we say what's the key food that is good to eat for optimal thyroid functioning? And you said also the normal levels of your thyroid, they're very narrow, they're not testing everything. And I know somebody who's got technically normal levels, but she's not, but she is like so far off being optimal, and she's not going to get any help from the doctor until she's below what's
Mm,
normal. And so she's frustrated, so she said to me, Mari, what should I be eating, what should I be doing to support myself, because I can't wait for it to get even worse because I'm not functioning properly.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that so many times as well, where they just leave you till it gets worse and then you get the medication. Um, as to what to eat to support your thyroid, it does kind of depend on the actual underlying thing that's causing the thyroid issue. You could be eating the right things, but you could have a really high stress level that's contributing to a thyroid issue. So just bear in mind that food isn't the be all and end all, but it certainly is the foundation. So one of the first things to think about is making sure that you have enough food overall, making sure you're getting in protein, you're not taking your carbs too low, because your thyroid needs a certain amount of carbs to be able to function properly. Nutrient wise, things like selenium, iodine, and zinc, tyrosine are all things that are very important for thyroid function. So, eating protein rich foods is a good way to get several of those nutrients. Brazil nuts are a great source of selenium. Only 3-4 a day are what you need to get your daily recommended intake of selenium. So that's really easy. Iodine wise, this is the bit that a lot of people struggle with
I was going to
because
say that. Yeah, that's a tough one.
seafoods are really your main source. So, whether that's fish or shellfish or seaweeds like nori, for example. And my mind's gone blank of all
Yeah,
the different
mine
sources of
too. But
iodine.
all I'm thinking is white fish. But I was reading that it is a common deficiency to have actually amongst women, and that's
Yes.
something when you're pregnant that you need to be careful as well, that you have good enough iodine levels. But it's
Mm,
yeah, but it is interesting that there's so many different aspects to it. I mean, we can write a whole list about the foods afterwards for those who are really interested in
mm,
exactly what needs to be eaten. But you were just saying that making sure that you get enough protein, but actually also not too few carbs.
mm.
How is that? What's that comment met with when you say that to women? Because surely so many of them have been told they need to go low carb.
Mm. And what often happens is when women do go low carb or keto, they feel great for like maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or so. They see weight loss. Um, but if their thyroid isn't completely happy, then the thyroid tends to get worse and the weight loss stops and they feel awful. Also, what I see a lot is women who come to me and they say, "Oh, I did keto a year ago, whatever. I lost a stone or however much weight, but it's gone back on. And now I'm doing keto again and nothing's happening."
Mm.
And that to me is a sure sign that your thyroid is not happy. You've potentially made your thyroid more underactive by going keto and it hasn't necessarily recovered just by increasing the carbs again. It might need a little bit more focused attention. But yeah, I think it's not the best solution, going low carb keto. It is a quick fix and it can have longer term repercussions.
Things we're not being told, huh?
Mm.
It's all it's the more I learn, the more I'm thinking it's about just eating as much whole foods as we can, as varied as we can,
Yeah.
and giving our body a proper rest in between. But you said something really important because that was the other thing I was going to mention. And I wonder if this might be one of the reasons why women in particular in the Western world struggle with underactive thyroid. Um, because stress levels amongst women are insane.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When you look at modern life for a woman who's got kids or a woman who is in her late 30s, 40s, usually, as well as working full time, they're often still kind of like the primary parent, the primary home organizer, mental load for organizing presents for family members and, birthday parties and all these things. And often there's older parents who need to be supported
Yeah.
when you're at that time of life. And, add on to that, we're always on our phones and we've got social media stresses coming at us and the stress of using screens constantly. And, it's just constant. And there's loads of these things that really drive up our cortisol levels. Um, so, it's a lot for your body to cope with. And then when you look at what's actually happening in your body during that time, without all of that going on, the natural process is that your sex hormone levels start to decline as you approach menopause. And the reason why that happens is because your ovaries are starting to essentially run out of eggs and shut down. And what happens is your adrenal glands, your stress glands, take over the production of your sex hormones to a certain degree. So there's a shift from your ovaries to your adrenals making your sex hormones. But if you're really, really stressed at the same time, or just constantly busy, maybe you don't even feel stressed, but if you're constantly busy, never getting any downtime, your adrenals are having to cope with producing probably quite a lot of stress hormones and the sex hormones as well. And basically stress during this transition period can exacerbate and accelerate the decline in your sex hormones, worsening all those menopausal symptoms, including stubborn weight.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. I can totally see it. And even if we have time to sit down and relax, we're just like on our
Yeah.
phones then. Yeah. So there is
Yeah.
no proper, I mean, I'm awful for it.
Mm.
And it is, I think it is an addiction. But then, yeah, you said also because cortisol, another hormone that also
Mm.
can mess up your metabolism, can't it? Because if your body is in a constant stress state, how is it supposed to rest and repair and digest and do all of these things? So
Yeah.
that sort of takes us nicely over to that hormone. And I I always thought I was going to have children, I was going to back into a full-time job, they're going to go to nursery, la la. Living in, especially in this country, I think, but I think Norway is sort of, yeah, slightly different, but still it's quite full on. Um, my stress levels were up here. I mean, it
Mhm.
was insane. I thought something's got to give. I
Mm.
can't do all of these things. So I ended up not going back after the second baby, because financially it made no sense, and I was just going to maybe be left with £200 at the end of the month and insanely
Mhm.
high stress levels.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing more and more that this society we live in is a little bit messed up. Like, I'm not sure we got our priorities straight, because we're
Yeah.
walking around and with our shoulders up here, all of us. And I think if we just took like a, cortisol level test of us all, I mean, I think we'd be shocked.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting and probably pretty horrifying.
Yeah,
But what I've just said hopefully doesn't make people feel like there's nothing that they can do, because there's plenty that we can do
yeah,
even if you can't get rid of that stress. It's about supporting your body through the stress and making sure that you are giving your body what it needs to thrive through that stressful time.
absolutely.
Um, and unfortunately, eating less and doing loads of exercise isn't going to help. It's going to make those things worse. It's going to drive up the stress hormones even more. So I think you've got to take quite a gentle, nourishing approach and think about, what would you do if it was your child or a friend who was going through a really stressful time? You probably wouldn't be pushing them to eat less and do more workouts. You'd probably be trying to get them to eat really nourishing whole foods, rest when they can, delegate what they can, engage in activities that are going to kind of calm down the nervous system, even if it's just a few minutes of deep belly breathing or just some quiet time or going out for a walk.
Yeah.
The really simple things, simple, wholesome things that just help us to get grounded again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important that you say that, because I can get wrapped up in, oh my gosh, the society is insane. But actually, there is things we can do. And I've said to people who've listened to this podcast and previous episodes that I've had since having the third baby, who's now hopefully still asleep next door, that I've had all kinds of health issues related to him, mostly sort of mastitis and all the fun to do with that. But I've said before, and he hasn't been sleeping, and I have two other children and a dog, and it's been slightly crazy. And I keep saying to people, like, if I didn't have my nutrition on point, and if I didn't go to bed on time, I still get woken up sometimes, and if I didn't also lower my shoulders a little bit when it comes to what a tidy surrounding looks like for me, or a tidy home looks like for me, I think I would have gone under.
Mm.
So it's about reframing a little bit, but also supporting yourself where you can. So maybe, yes, you can't give one child away, or you can't, you have to have all these things. You can't sort of give anything up, but maybe you can kind of go, okay, the dishes, they can actually wait, or so what if that's not tidied up, or whatever, I'm going to leave that to one side. And as for the nutrition, because I've been able to support myself nutritionally, I feel like I've actually got more energy than I perhaps should have, if that
Mm.
makes sense. And so
Hmm.
it's easy then to deal with all the stress, because my foundation is good, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's about making yourself more resilient.
Yes.
And I think, the more you can do in preparation for a stressful time, great. But, if you're already in it, which you likely are, then, there's really simple things that you can do to build up that resilience. And, like I said, it could be incorporating a few minutes of deep breathing each day. Maybe it's meditation practices, going for a walk. Um, but also, making sure that you're fueling your body properly, having enough food, and then certain nutrients like magnesium. Yeah, really simple, but such a powerful mineral because it's so calming. We burn through it so quickly when we're stressed, but also from drinking coffee and alcohol, and if we sweat a lot because of workouts or whatever, we lose magnesium much quicker. So magnesium one is one that actually we have a really high demand for, particularly when we're stressed. It's difficult to get enough of through food, but also it's a very calming mineral. So it's handy to have beginning of your day, end of your day, just to help, kind of calm down your nervous system a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it literally makes the muscles relax, doesn't it?
Mm,
So
mm,
yeah, my eldest daughter, she likes also using the magnesium creams if she's got like
mm,
growing pains or anything. And sometimes I think with any of these approaches, actually, that it's not necessarily so that I think she puts the cream on, for example, that we take, whatever supplement we take, or whatever we do, but it's the feeling that I'm doing something for myself. I'm taking back control.
Yeah.
And you just almost like telling your brain this is going to work. And the brain creates whatever chemical reactions it creates. And I think you feel better just knowing that you've done something for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's empowering. And, I think it's action creates momentum. And when you've done something, even if it's just very simple, like applying a magnesium cream, that feeling of doing something for yourself will snowball, and it'll be easier to do more things and
Yeah.
build on these little habits, which when you do lots of little things consistently, it has a really big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would still imagine though that when you have clients coming to you and you suggest these things, they'll be like, how on earth am I supposed to find time for that?
Yeah, and I think the answer is to do things in baby steps,
Yeah,
and do things that are meaningful to you as well, because when you start reading about things and you start researching, there is a million things that you could be doing,
yeah,
you know for whatever goal, to improve your health or to lose weight. um but when you're working with someone, it does help to cut out all the fluff and the background noise, and you can just do what's going to work for you, the things that are going to be most impactful. And I think if you do a couple of simple things well and consistently, it has a much, much bigger impact than trying to overhaul your life all in one go and hope that you're going to be able to keep going with willpower.
yeah. No, absolutely. Well, this is why the show is called The Small Steps to Wellness Show as well, because that's exactly how I started,
Mm,
literally with cutting back on the sugar I added to my home baked cake that I made every week. And then that was the first step. And then, oh, we can actually bake cake with wholemeal. Fantastic.
mm,
And then the next step and next step and next step, and before you know it, you're in a completely different situation diet wise, as in food wise, eating wise. And then you go, okay, this is now automatic for me that I do this on a daily basis. I built that up as a habit. What can I add to it now?
mm.
But instead of going all in and then you're falling that much further, then aren't you,
Yeah.
if it's
And
hard
and
to
it
keep
can
up.
leave you feeling very defeated, I think,
Yeah,
when you do that. Because you've put in so much effort, you've had this great plan, and you haven't been able to follow through with it. And it chips away at your self-belief that you are going to be able to, be someone who eats healthy or be someone who maintains a healthy weight. But actually, if you do one thing and you implement it consistently, then you feel like you've achieved something, and it's easy to build on that and to start having a much kind of more meaningful journey.
yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. It's yeah, it's so easy to feel like I can't do anything. I said to one of my children, it's like, can't do corner kicks, mommy. I'm just so rubbish. But actually, it's like, okay, let's go practice it. Just do it again and do it again,
Mm,
do it again, and build that up to habits. Okay, I put the ball there, take these steps back, and I go there and I kick the ball. I don't know how to play football, but and you kind of build on it and build on it and build on it, and slowly but surely, like, actually, I can do that. Okay, what am I going to work on next?
mm.
I think that's great.
I
Um,
think, like, when we're building habits, we do need to think of it like that, as practicing, because I remember for me, I really struggled with like planning out my meals for the week. It was like a mental block. I'd sit down, I just find it so hard to think, right, what am I going to eat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? And don't get me wrong, I still don't love doing it, but it's something that, despite me finding it really hard, I sat down and, like, every Sunday I just did it. And at first it might take me an hour to do it, but now I can do it in 5 minutes. And it's just almost like a skill that you've got to hone. And once you are practiced doing something like that, it gets easier, it becomes a habit, and you set yourself up for success by planning ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's what everyone. I mean, I hate meal prepping, by the way, can't stand it.
Me
But
too.
everyone that is like a professional athlete or whatever, they plan these things. They plan their whole, I don't know, golf game. They plan their whole sort of whatever competition they're doing. They plan it in advance, don't they? They picture it in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the day of doing it, they've already done it in their heads and they see
Yeah.
themselves winning. And I think, yeah, it's a great thing to be doing. You're right. And I don't like to use the word should, but I think I should meal prep a little bit more, because I do get to certain days I'm just like, oh gosh, I think also that I don't have to meal prep as much as I used to do, because I've built it up into a habit that I know if I've got these ingredients in the house, okay, I'm gonna make this done.
Yeah.
But that, so that doesn't come from nothing, it comes from years of practicing it, as you say
Mhm.
again. So but yeah, I think you're right, because otherwise we reach for the foods that maybe are not going to serve us as well. So
Mm.
so either having your fridge full of things that you know what to do with, or having a plan and sticking
Mhm.
to that, so that you don't end up buying all kinds of other things from the shop that you go, oh, that's, you know,
Yeah.
and then maybe buying the less than ideal food for you. But on the note, on the note of food, you mentioned, and I said to you, it was a little bit like music to my ears. You mentioned toxic load, and that is
Mhm.
something when I first got into, got interested in nutrition, because I didn't know much about it at all. About 3 years after you started studying, I think you said, no, since you graduated. Um, I learned about this whole toxicity and everything. And a lot of people are like, well, that's a lot of bull, basically. What on earth is this?
Mm.
But it is a real thing. So can you share a little bit about what toxic load is, or what toxicity is, and how that can hinder us from having an optimal weight, and I guess what we can do to deal with it?
Mm. Yeah, we're kind of the thing that I hear a lot online is that your liver is there to detox for you and it does a really good job of it, so it's not something that you need to worry about.
Yes, exactly.
But the reality is, yes, our liver is great at detoxing, but when you look at the modern world that we live in and what we're exposed to, pesticides, pollutants, the stuff in skincare products, phthalates and sulfates and that sort of thing, parabens, um, that's in fragrances and cleaning products and so many things, plastics. We're exposed to all these things and we have to get rid of them. Whether they come in contact with our skin, whether they're ingested, breathed in, they go into circulation and we have to eliminate them via the liver. And so your liver's, got a lot of work to do. And yes, it does a great job of detoxing constantly. But when you have a very high toxic load, your liver can only detox so quickly. And it's also got to detox other things like your hormones. We make our hormones and then they get eliminated via the liver as well. There's other toxins being produced in your body just as a result of the processes that happen, as a result of the bacteria that's in your gut. So there's a lot for your liver to be doing. When that toxic load is quite high, that can cause an impact on your hormone balance because maybe we're not detoxing our hormones quick enough or efficiently. But also, one of the ways in which our body protects itself from a high toxic load is by upregulating fat storage, because a safe place for us to store our toxins, if we can't eliminate them quick enough, is to store them in our fat cells out of harm's way. So what can happen is your body can basically put the brakes on the fat burning to stop you releasing the stored toxins that you already have from your fat cells. And you may even upregulate fat storage to lock away the toxins that are in circulation. And again, nothing to do with calorie control or how much you're eating or how much you're exercising. So yeah, it's a way that we can end up having very stubborn weight that never gets talked about.
But what happens also then if you have all this toxic load and you go in a strict calorie counting, high exercise diet? Are you able to shift some of the weight? But if so, what happens to all the toxins?
So typically what tends to happen is that you'll start losing weight at first, but then you'll plateau because your body wants to shut down that weight loss to stop the toxic load going even higher. And this can be why when you lose weight very quickly, you can feel really rough. Some people almost get flu-like symptoms or like real hangover type symptoms. And it can be because toxic load is going so high with such rapid release of fat and therefore toxins as well.
Mm. So yeah, actually, we are working against ourselves without realizing it. We are actually
Mm.
harming our bodies
Yeah. Yeah.
because the fat is there to protect us.
Yeah. And then I haven't even mentioned about how a lot of these toxins that we're exposed to, they are known as xenoestrogens because they are very similar in their chemical structure to our own estrogens. And that means that they can be disruptive to your hormones by binding to the receptors that our hormones are supposed to bind to. So they can kind of get in the way of our hormones doing their job, but also where your liver has to detox these xenoestrogens through the same pathways as our own estrogens. Again, they can kind of get in the way, clog up the pathway, and either the toxins can be recirculated around your system or your own estrogens can be recirculated, and you can end up with things like estrogen dominance where we kind of got too much estrogen in our system.
Yeah, yeah. So how do we deal with that then? How do we deal with the toxicity? How do we get rid of it?
I think the best place to start is with reducing your exposure as much as possible,
Yeah,
because probably a lot of people listening think, oh, I will do a detox
yeah.
and clear those toxins out of my system. But it's yes, doing a gentle detox can be helpful, but it's quite a temporary solution. And actually, what we will get more benefit from is reducing your exposure in the long term. And what that means is, it might mean purifying your air, maybe get an air purifier or indoor plants that purify the air in your office or your home. It might mean throwing away some of the air fresheners and the candles that put the fragrances into the air. It might mean gradually changing up your skincare products and swapping to cleaner brands. Um, those are kind of like the good places to start. Switching from plastic water bottles and Tupperware, switching over to glass and metal as much as possible. um yeah, those are probably the key things that come to mind to start reducing your exposure. And that can feel like a lot, that can feel like a lot to do, but again, these things are cumulative. And if we can, start by perhaps replacing your skincare products and makeup as it runs out, when you come to buy the next one, look for something that's cleaner, then it's going to be a gradual transition, but it will be easier and kind of easier on the purse as well.
Yes, this is it, because I think it can feel quite expensive doing all these things as well.
Mm,
And this is an issue that I think is easy to sit here and talk about these things when you know you can afford to make all these changes, but quite a few things are expensive when they
mm.
are of better quality, and not everyone can then just go and swap everything out. Do you know of any skincare products that are good, that are on the cheaper end? I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin.
Skincare wise, there's quite a range of options,
Mm.
and my preferred brand, which is not necessarily the cheapest option, but the one that I get the best feedback from with clients, is Tropic.
Yeah, I use
Um,
Tropic.
really, really love it.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of cheaper ones, there's brands like, I don't know how to say it, but I think it's Sukin.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know either.
Sukin.
Yeah.
It's quite a basic brand in terms of minimal ingredients in there,
Yeah.
but it's a really nice brand and quite a good starter one for when you're switching over
Yeah.
to cleaner products. So that's a nice one. And then in terms of like cleaning products, I haven't found that to be more expensive. There's quite a few companies that do like refills where they send you like a tablet in the post and you
Yeah.
put it in the bottle with water. And the one that I use, I think it's called Home Things. It's so cheap. It's really, really cheap. It doesn't cost much at all. And then a really popular one that I haven't got around to trying is Purdy and Fig. I know my
Yeah, I've
clients
heard the name.
absolutely love that.
Yeah. I think I got
Um,
one called Ocean Saver, I
oh
think,
yeah,
that I just put
yeah.
into a bottle, and I think that's quite decent. But also vinegar and oh, we've lost Louise. Oh no, there you are. I thought I lost you for a second. You're back.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
just froze there for a
Yes,
sec.
yes, and so did you. I was like, you looked very relaxed with your eyes closed. But I think just vinegar and lemon as well, right? So because we think
Yes.
sometimes we have to be so, like, you have to get the best brand out there, and everything has to be whatever the ads tell us that we need. But actually,
Mm,
people manage to clean their homes before all these products were on the market, right? So
yeah, very
yeah,
true.
is there anything food wise that you would say to help your toxins, or help your body get rid of toxins? Is there anything that you can eat on a daily basis?
In terms of getting rid of toxins, things like you can get milk thistle teas, dandelion teas. A lot of those herbal teas are very liver supportive. Things like lemon juice in water, really simple, but actually really great for supporting your gut and your liver as well. Um, and just making sure that you've got plenty of fiber in the diet, which helps to bind up toxins and carry them out of your system. So lots of variety of fruits and vegetables, plant-based foods, nuts, seeds, herbs, those sorts of things. Um, and then also, a big part of minimizing exposure is reducing pesticide intake. And again, that's something that can be kind of seen as a more expensive option if you are going for organic foods to achieve that. But also, there's other ways that you can do it. And there's two really helpful lists, which are the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. The Clean 15 are 15 foods that are cleaner. They're not as many pesticides are used when they're grown. So you can kind of get away with not buying those organic. The Dirty Dozen are foods that are very high in pesticides, and you either want to buy them organic or have less of them in your diet. So that list can be really helpful if buying organic produce is out of your budget.
Yeah, that's a really good point because again, it becomes one of those elitist things almost, doesn't it, that you can afford to buy, but also sometimes not available. I mean,
Mm,
I think strawberries are on the Dirty Dozen list, aren't they? And you'd be hard pressed to find them organic in most shops.
yeah,
So if you want
absolutely.
strawberries,
Some things are super easy to grow yourself as well. Like strawberries are so easy to grow. And if you've got, a balcony or a space for a couple of pots, you can grow a few strawberries. They're one of the only things that I'm growing at the moment, and they've gone absolutely mad this year. I've got strawberries coming out because you can't get, well, it's very difficult to find organic ones. When you do, they're very expensive.
yeah, this is exactly it. They are very expensive. Yeah, and that could take me on to a whole other topic of paying farmers fairly, but that's another topic. I've just been told that my internet connection is unstable, which is
Mm,
highly frustrating. But I think we're okay. I think we're okay. It takes me on to gut health, but I also appreciate that we talk quite a lot already. But all of these things basically go hand in hand, and by eating, I hope you can hear me now. We keep dipping in and out a little bit. By eating lots of different plant foods, we get all the fiber that's also going to be supporting our gut health, right? Moving things through our
mm,
gut, helping us create short chain fatty acids in the gut. All of these things also again important for optimal functioning of the body as a whole, which is what we want
mm.
if we want to manage our weight, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and supporting your gut health is massive when it comes to your hormones, your metabolism, and your overall well-being, and your general weight loss journey. Because your gut, as well as it impacting your hormones and blood sugars, it impacts your mental health as
Yeah,
well. We forget that we make about 90% of our serotonin in the gut. So if your gut isn't functioning optimally, it's going to impact your mood, and you're probably going to find it more difficult to make good food choices when your moods are fluctuating or if you're feeling low. Um, so that has a big impact on your actual, food choices and willpower, energy, all the stuff that's kind of indirectly linked to a successful weight loss journey as
yeah.
well. So yeah, the gut is super important.
But do we need those fancy yogurts?
No, definitely not. Yeah, there's a lot of clever marketing out there for a lot of products around the gut. And when you look at them, they're often not really that much better than just a plain old bio yogurt or Greek yogurt.
It's
Yeah,
even to contain ingredients. I think surely this is actually not helping the gut.
yeah, yeah. Well, with those little like yogurt drinks that were very trendy 10, 15 years or so ago. Yeah, they've got sugar in, which isn't good for your gut. The amount of bacteria or probiotics in there is negligible pretty much. You'll find more in even just store-bought yogurt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would be very cautious around the products that are labeled up as kind of gut health, gut friendly, because it's likely just clever marketing, and there's often much more simple ways that you can support your gut and cheaper ways.
Yeah, exactly. Full fat, organic Greek yogurt.
Mm,
Happy
yeah.
days. Yeah. We struggle a little bit with cow's milk in our house, according to a food intolerance test we did because for various reasons. But we found that there's a really good goat's milk yogurt, full fat goat's milk yogurt. Everyone likes it from the 1 year old to the, how old am I? Nearly 43. Um, so there are alternatives as well
Mm,
for those who can't tolerate certain products. And I know it's a very good coconut yogurt as well. Now I think it's just Cocos. It's not the cheapest, but there are
mm,
alternatives as well. Because I think so often people go, oh, but I can't have dairy or I can't have whatever. And I'm supposed to eat yogurt because that's what everyone tells me is really good for me.
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to ask you that question about the drinks because I see it everywhere. And the other thing that frustrates me, which is not quite linked to any of this, but it's the whole well, it's kind of linked a little bit because we want to be eating proper fiber to get everything moving, to get rid of all the toxins we don't need. But people who come and say they have high cholesterol and then they're told to eat like the a heart healthy, plant butters and all of these
Mm.
things. And yeah, I know you see you just like cringing at the thought of it. And it's just like somebody has done some really clever marketing to make us think that we need all these things. And
Yeah.
what's the name of the man who fabricated that study 8 years ago that we now, he didn't fabricate it, but he cherry picked his results, didn't he? And now we're thinking we all need to be eating all these foods that actually aren't supporting us. So I think going back to basics.
Yeah, just like we keep saying, whole food, we've been told that eggs aren't good when you've got high cholesterol,
Mm,
but it's kind of the biggest miscarriage of justice ever. The eggs are one of the most complete foods nutritionally, so nutritious. And we make our own cholesterol, and we tend to make it in response to inflammation. So we're not taking cholesterol from eggs, and it's increasing our own cholesterol. So you can eat as many eggs as you want. um and again, you eating those spreads and drinks that are meant to lower your cholesterol, you'd be much better off spending your money on berries and fresh vegetables and things like sauerkraut and eggs and good quality, animal products. All of those things are going to just serve you so much better.
yeah, yeah. It's just so good to hear someone else say it. I'm going to let you go in a bit, Liz, but I want to know because I love your approach to weight loss. I think it is the healthiest way, the most sustainable way. But surely you must get clients coming in to you and just going, "Well, hang on, but I need this today. I need to lose my weight today, or I'm going on holiday in 3 weeks." Like,
Mm.
what is your approach with that? Because I'm sure that you must be met with some resistance as well to things moving, because this is a slower but more sustainable way of losing and keeping the fat off. And maybe you should say fat loss instead of weight loss.
Mm.
This is the more sustainable way of doing it, and you don't have to go, yo-yo dieting, but you must be met with some resistance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think generally the women that come to work with me, they've tried everything, and I'm kind of the last resort.
I've seen some of the testimonials, so yeah, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and so they kind of get it already, but we obviously sometimes have people who want results much quicker, and so there's a lot of reassurance involved, and we find ourselves saying over and over, your weight problems didn't develop overnight, and they're not going to be resolved overnight. For so many women, it's a problem that's developed from many different issues. It could be linked to stress, to menopause, it could be linked to a history of dieting, could be certain medications that they're taking, or various other lifestyle factors, toxic load, everything that we've mentioned today. We do like a full symptom and lifestyle assessment as well as running tests. And we so often find that there are multiple things going on causing imbalances. And some things are really quick to resolve, like blood sugars. You can get those balanced very quickly, but hormones can take a lot longer. It could take 3 months to start seeing some resemblance of normal hormonal function. When you've got imbalances going on, it could take longer. Same with gut imbalances. If you've got an overgrowth of yeast or something like that, that could take 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year to address that properly. Doesn't mean that it's going to take that long to see weight loss results, but it's going to be slower whilst you've got those underlying imbalances going on. So we just have to keep reassuring people and reminding people that we're working on the root of it. And once we address those issues, you're going to find it much easier to not only lose weight, but to get out of bed and feel energized in the morning and control cravings and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because surely when your clients get their results, they must come with a lot of other benefits as well. So what are the things that people have reported back to you?
Yeah, all sorts of things really. Very often better skin, hair, and nails, feeling more energized, getting rid of bloating, just feeling more balanced emotionally, more
Yeah,
stable, um, feeling more confident, which comes as a result of all of those things changing. But sometimes it's really random things. Like someone will say to me, "Oh, I've suffered with sinusitis my whole life, and suddenly, I've not had an infection for 3 months." And sometimes it can be improving joint pain, or it could be a back problem that they've had for decades and suddenly it's resolved. And it's where you're working on, addressing the underlying inflammation that's driving these things. So
yeah.
yeah, really, you name it, there's a good chance that it'll improve when you start working on the root causes of these issues.
Yeah, and that's what matters in the end, isn't it? It's like it's. I mean, I'm a woman. I completely appreciate that feeling good and looking good in your own body is a big deal. I mean, I have days where I feel better, and days where I go, oh my goodness me, I maybe should cut back on eating whatever I've been eating. So I
Mm,
appreciate that, but I'm learning also as I get older and have children, that I want to be able to keep up with them. I want to be able to
mm,
run around with them. I want to be able to, as I get older and older, to have the energy to do all of these things.
yeah,
And if I were to only focus on dieting, then chances are that I'll miss all these other underlying things, and I'll maybe even create problems for myself. So
yeah,
that's why I think it's so
absolutely.
important what you do.
Yeah, and for so many women that come into my program, it often starts with them, their goal being to get to a certain weight, but often they almost forget about that because they realize that it goes a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And there's other things that are driving them, like being able to keep up with their kids, or being able to live as long as they can, to be see grandchildren and that sort of thing. They realize that there's a deeper driver for it. But also, I think when you start focusing on a much more holistic approach to your health, you do start seeing all these other benefits, and you realize that actually the weight on the scales is such a minor thing.
Yeah, yeah, but that's gone full circle, because you said earlier, or in the beginning, that people who come to you for just weight loss, they often don't see as good as a result, or they're maybe not as motivated. Whereas if you've got a more important driver, I always have a picture of my kids there, just right there. So I always look at them, because I think that's what drives me, right? So
Yeah.
if I have something bigger than me, or something that is a little bit hairier than just I want to lose 10 pounds or whatever it is, then chances are I'm going to succeed.
Yeah, we definitely see the best results in the people who are focused on a long-term health transformation, or they're focused on aging healthily, or some other long-term goal, as opposed to someone who just has got 10 pounds to lose and that's the only thing that they care about.
Yeah.
Those people will still get results if they follow the process, but in terms of, you know, s- keeping that weight off in the long term, if you are focused on a bigger goal, you're going to be able to maintain it and see it through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How do people work with you, and how can people reach out to you? Because I mean, this is music to my ears, and I'm sure then it's going to be music to other people's ears, and they want to go, okay, how do I work with you? So do you do face to face? Do you do online? You said something about the web. training you do? What are the
Mm.
different ways that people can work with you?
So yeah, I have a what I call the metabolism masterclass, which I run most weeks. It's a like a live webinar that anyone can join me for, and it's a good way to dip your toe because I'll walk through the steps that I go through with my clients. Um, and then we work with people online, and we it's our approach is like a fusion of one to one, a little bit of self guided work as well as some group work as well. And we find that it's kind of the best way to give people the absolute most support possible. And we use tests which can be done at home wherever you are to kind of inform our action plans.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can connect with me by going to my website, louisedigbynutrition.com.
Yeah.
And then also you can find me on social media by searching at Louise Digby Nutrition.
You've quite a good following there.
Yeah, reasonably good following.
Yeah, it's just pretty decent. I was just looking at it. I'll put all of that in the show notes as well because I think it's really inspiring to talk to someone who really dives deep and who doesn't just want to go, okay, this is your problem, hence you need this medication or whatever. I mean, sometimes, obviously, none of us are against any of this. Like if you
Mm,
need medicine, it saved my life last year, so I'm all for it. Um, but just taking back power and knowing that there's so much we can do ourselves, and
mhm,
knowing that there are people like you that can guide us in the right direction, or kind of go, how about you look at this as a starting point, or how about you look at doing this and hold your hand and kind of guide you through, so that they're able to make those decisions for themselves further down the line, right?
mm.
Because surely the goal for you, as much as this is your business, is that people, after they've completed a course with you, won't need you again because you've done your job properly and educated them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Mm.
terrible business model, but yeah, I don't want people to come back. I want them to be able to take, the learnings from the program and be able to apply that again for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
So it is really about arming people with the knowledge and the tools to be able to make informed decisions about what to eat or their health in general,
yeah.
forever.
Yeah, and then do you know what? They can pass that on to their children as well. Because what
Mm,
I've noticed is that this approach to managing your weight is family friendly.
mm,
Because you don't
yeah.
count anything, you don't restrict anything as such. I mean, yes, if there are intolerances, we have a couple in our house that struggle with wheat, so we use other things. It's not a problem, but we
Mm,
don't. No one is, suffering anything, or it's not like mum is on a diet, so this is her
yes.
plate. It's very much um, a nourishing way of looking after ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's so important again for it to be sustainable. You don't want to be cooking separate meals to the rest of your family, but also you want your kids to see, a quote unquote normal dinner time
Yeah.
where everyone's eating pretty much the same thing. And mummy's not on a diet, or mummy's not, you know, having her meals separately or just drinking something rather than eating. It's so important for your kids to grow up with a healthy relationship with food. And that's one of the things that always kind of makes my heart sing, is when my clients tell me that their kids love such and such recipe, or they're really loving this way of eating and their husbands are on board, and when the whole family gets involved, it's great.
Yeah, I've absolutely. I'll leave you with this. I got my eldest daughter, she loves lemonade, and I've kind of been getting the sort of the refreshingly light San Pellegrinos because I think they've got stevia, which is more okay than other things. But I've recently got her to embrace the brand is called Equinox. It's one of the better kombuchas I found.
Mm.
The lemon kombucha from Equinox, and for her, she's 11. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Mama. You bought me my favorite drink, and that's her sort of
Oh,
Saturday treat. And I was like, yes. I mean, slightly, yeah, I mean, it sounds slightly insane, but I don't know. It sounds very sort of like middle class England kind of thing. My child's drinking kombucha, but it's like if you can make these small steps that
mm,
will change the food receptors, or kind of change their how they view food and how it tastes, and get them used to these flavors.
yeah,
I mean, gosh, you're winning, right? So
yeah.
no, I think it's such important work you're doing, so thank you. I think I've missed like so many things, but yeah, we could talk about there are so many aspects to a healthy weight. But I
Yeah.
think that the best thing probably for anyone listening who's curious about this is to contact you.
Mm.
I was thinking just see where to start, because what you do as well is personalized, and I think that for many is especially those, as you say, who've tried everything, is going to be important, because I think that way you feel seen, and when
Yeah.
you feel seen, you feel validated, you feel important, you feel like I deserve this. That's the
Mm.
start, isn't it?
It's easier to follow through with something when you feel like you're working from fact and you're cutting out all the guesswork.
Yeah,
I see so many women jumping from diet to diet or thing to thing because they're not convinced that it's the right thing for them.
yeah,
Whereas when you're working from, you've got someone who is, looking at you from an outside perspective, running tests and, factoring everything in, you've got another level of confidence in what you're doing, and it just helps you to follow it through.
yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also something to be said for these things can be scary, because you can become
Mm.
your weight, that can become your identity, that I am that
Hmm.
person. Who am I if I'm not that person? And having somebody to hold your hand through the whole process then, and assure you that what you're doing is good and it's going to help you with XYZ,
Mm.
it's, yeah, I think it's great. Listen,
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, very busy day to come and talk to me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put all of this in the show notes as well, so that anyone who wants to contact you, they have it all in writing, and they can access it from there. I'll put your social medias and everything up. But thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. It's been great.
That's been great.